Welcome to my channel, a vlog that brings your story about the love of a mafia boss. Now let's listen.
The rain hammered against the floor-to-ceiling windows of the penthouse like 1,000 desperate fingers trying to break through. I stood in the kitchen, my bare feet cold against the marble floor, watching the city lights blur into watercolor streaks through the glass. 3 years. 3 years of living in this gilded cage, and I still felt like a ghost haunting someone else's life. My hands trembled as I poured chamomile tea into the delicate porcelain cup, one of dozens in the cabinet that I'd never chosen, never wanted. The steam rose and kissed my face with fleeting warmth, a brief comfort in the suffocating silence that had become my constant companion. I wrapped my cardigan tighter around my thin frame, feeling the weight of fabric that cost more than my mother's monthly rent, yet provided no real warmth. 3 years of marriage to a man who barely looked at me. 3 years of sleeping in separate rooms. 3 years of wondering why he'd chosen me at all. The grandfather clock in the hallway chimed midnight, its echo bouncing off the empty walls. Marcus wouldn't be home for hours, if he came home at all. Most nights, I fell asleep to silence and woke to absence. The penthouse was enormous, spanning the entire top floor of the building, but it felt like a mausoleum, beautiful and lifeless. I moved to the living room, my footsteps soundless, practiced in the art of not disturbing the peace of a home that had never truly been mine. Everything here screamed of wealth and power. The Italian leather sofas I was afraid to sit on, the original paintings whose artists I couldn't pronounce, the Persian rugs that probably cost more than most people's homes. But none of it was mine. I was just another expensive object Marcus Valentino had acquired and forgotten. The marriage had been arranged, that much I understood. My father had owed money to dangerous people, the kind of debt that doesn't get erased with bankruptcy or apologies. One day, men in black suits had appeared at our cramped apartment, and my father's face had gone the color of ash. Then Marcus himself had arrived. I remember that day with crystalline clarity. He'd walked into our shabby living room like a predator entering a cage of mice, and everything had shifted. He was younger than I'd expected, only 30 to my 21, and devastatingly handsome in a way that made my breath catch. Dark hair swept back from a face of sharp angles and harder edges, eyes the color of smoke and steel, a body that moved with lethal grace beneath a suit that probably cost more than our annual rent. He'd barely looked at me that day. His gaze had swept over me once, cataloging, assessing, dismissing, before returning to my father. They'd spoken in low voices while I sat frozen on our threadbare couch, my younger sister clutching my hand with bruising force. I caught fragments: debt, arrangement, protection, marriage. My father had cried when Marcus left. Great, heaving sobs that shook his shoulders while he apologized over and over. "You'll be safe," he'd said, his voice breaking. "He promised you'd be safe, and your sister, your mother. He'll protect them all." The wedding had happened 2 weeks later in a courthouse, witnessed by stone-faced men in expensive suits and one terrified girl who'd barely graduated high school. Marcus had said his vows in a voice devoid of emotion, slipped a platinum band on my finger that felt like a shackle, and kissed me once. A brief, cold press of lips that promised nothing. That had been the only time he'd touched me in 3 years. I curled up on the window seat, pulling my knees to my chest, watching the rain. My reflection stared back at me in the glass. Too thin, too pale, drowning in clothes meant for someone with more substance. I'd lost weight since the wedding, despite the private chef who prepared elaborate meals I mostly ate alone. Depression, maybe, or just the slow erasure of existing in a space where you don't belong. The sound of the elevator doors opening made my heart jump. I glanced at the clock, 1:30 in the morning, early for Marcus. I heard his voice first, low and deadly calm, speaking in Italian to someone. Then other voices, his men, always surrounding him like a living fortress. Footsteps crossed the marble entryway, multiple sets, accompanied by the subtle rustle of concealed weapons and the faint smell of rain-soaked leather and gun oil. I should have gone to my room. That was the unspoken rule. When Marcus conducted business, I made myself invisible. But something in his tone made me freeze, my curiosity warring with self-preservation. "Don't care what his excuse was," Marcus was saying, his voice carrying that particular edge that made grown men flinch. He had one job, 1. And now we have a problem. I shifted slightly, trying to hear better, and my elbow knocked against the decorative vase on the side table. It wobbled, time slowing to syrup as I watched it teeter. My hand shot out, but I was too late. The vase fell, shattering against the hardwood floor with a sound like a gunshot in the quiet penthouse. The conversation stopped instantly. My heart hammered against my ribs as footsteps approached. Quick, purposeful, dangerous. I pressed myself back against the window seat, making myself as small as possible, my breath coming in shallow gasps. Marcus appeared in the doorway to the living room, and my breath caught. He'd removed his suit jacket, his white shirt unbuttoned at the collar, sleeves rolled up to reveal forearms corded with muscle and decorated with scars that told stories I'd never hear. His dark hair was slightly disheveled, and there was a smear of something on his jaw that might have been blood. His gray eyes found me immediately, pinning me in place like a butterfly to a board. For a moment, neither of us moved. I could see his men behind him, Alessandro, his right hand, and 2 others whose names I'd never learned. They all watched me with the blank expressions of men trained not to react. "I'm sorry," I whispered, my voice barely audible. "I didn't mean... I'll clean it up." I scrambled off the window seat, my bare feet hitting the floor. Pain bloomed instantly as a shard of porcelain bit into my heel. I gasped, stumbling, and suddenly Marcus was moving. He crossed the distance between us in 3 long strides, his hand catching my elbow before I could fall. The touch sent electricity racing up my arm, the first time he'd touched me since our wedding day. His grip was firm, but careful, and I could feel the calluses on his palm, the warmth of his skin through the thin fabric of my cardigan. "Don't move," he ordered, his voice low and rough. "You'll cut yourself more." I froze, acutely aware of how close he was, close enough that I could smell him, expensive cologne layered over something darker, more dangerous. Smoke and leather, and the faint metallic tang of violence. My pulse thundered in my ears. Marcus glanced over his shoulder. "Alessandro, first aid kit. Now." "Boss," Alessandro started, his gaze flicking between us with poorly concealed surprise. "Now," Marcus repeated, and Alessandro disappeared. The silence stretched taut between us. I could feel Marcus's eyes on me, studying me in a way he never had before. My skin prickled with awareness, with fear, with something else I didn't want to name. "Why are you still awake?" he asked finally. "I couldn't sleep," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "I'm sorry. I know you're busy, I said don't move." His grip on my elbow tightened fractionally. "Your foot is bleeding." I looked down and saw the dark stain spreading across the hardwood, the bright smear of red that looked almost black in the dim lighting. The pain was distant, secondary to the surreal reality of Marcus Valentino touching me, speaking to me, looking at me like I was actually visible. Alessandro returned with the first aid kit, his expression carefully neutral. Marcus took it without a word. Then, before I could process what was happening, he bent and scooped me up into his arms. I made a sound, half gasp, half squeak, my hands instinctively clutching his shoulders. He was solid beneath my fingers, all controlled strength and coiled danger, and my brain short-circuited at the sensation of being held, of being touched after 3 years of existing as a phantom in my own life. Marcus carried me to the kitchen, his men parting silently to let us pass, their faces betraying nothing. He set me on the marble counter with surprising gentleness, positioning me under the recessed lighting. Then he knelt in front of me, pulling my injured foot toward him. I watched in stunned silence as Marcus Valentino, the man whose name made criminals cross themselves and whose reputation painted him as a monster, carefully examined the cut on my heel. His fingers were gentle, methodical, and when he looked up at me, something in his expression had shifted. "This needs stitches," he said quietly. "It's fine," I protested automatically. "I can just..." "It's not fine." His voice carried an edge of something I'd never heard from him before, not quite anger. Something more complicated. "Alessandro, call Dr. Romano. Tell him to get here within the hour." "Marcus, really, it's just a cut." His gaze snapped to mine, silencing me. For 3 years, he'd barely said my name. For 3 years, I'd been invisible. But now, with his hands on my skin and his eyes locked on mine, I felt seen for the first time since that cold courthouse ceremony. "You're bleeding," he said, his voice low and dangerous in a way that made my stomach flutter. "In my home, under my protection. That makes it my concern." My breath caught. Under my protection. As if I'd ever truly been that. Marcus turned his attention back to my foot, cleaning the wound with efficient movements that suggested he'd done this before. His touch was careful, almost tender, and I found myself studying him. The strong line of his jaw, the thick lashes that framed those storm-gray eyes, the small scar that bisected his left eyebrow. He was beautiful and terrifying in equal measure, and I had no idea what to do with the fact that he was touching me, caring for me, looking at me like I mattered. "Why?" The word escaped before I could stop it. His hands stilled. "Why what? Why do you care?" I whispered, my voice breaking. "You've ignored me for 3 years. I'm just the debt payment, the arrangement. So why?" Marcus stood abruptly, stepping into the space between my knees, and my words died. He was close now, closer than he'd ever been, and I could see the flecks of darker gray in his eyes, could feel the heat radiating from his body. "You think I ignore you?" His voice was soft, deadly. One hand came up to cup my jaw, tilting my face up to his, and I couldn't breathe. "Cara Mia, I'm aware of every breath you take in this house, every meal you barely touch, every night you can't sleep. I know when you cry in the shower so no one will hear. I know you rearrange the books in the library by color when you're anxious. I know you watch the rain and wonder if you made a mistake marrying a monster." My heart stopped. Don't lie to me." His thumb brushed across my cheekbone and I shivered. "I've given you space because I thought that's what you needed. 3 years to adjust, to feel safe, to understand that I would never hurt you, but maybe..." He trailed off, his gaze dropping to my lips, and something hot and dangerous coiled in my stomach. "Maybe," he continued, his voice dropping to a rough whisper. "I've been going about this all wrong." The doctor arrived 47 minutes later. A thin man with silver hair and hands that moved with the precision of someone who'd stitched wounds in less than ideal circumstances. Marcus didn't leave my side while Dr. Romano worked, his presence a solid wall of heat and danger at my back. 3 stitches, the doctor announced, snipping the final thread. "Keep it dry for 48 hours. No walking unless necessary." He glanced at Marcus with the wary respect of someone who knew exactly who he was dealing with. "I'll return in a week to remove them." Marcus nodded once, dismissing him with that subtle shift of his shoulders that made men move. Alessandro escorted the doctor out, and then it was just us. Me sitting on the kitchen counter with my bandaged foot, Marcus standing close enough that I could count his heartbeats if I dared. "You should rest," he said. But he made no move to step away. "I can walk to my room." "No." The word was absolute. "You heard the doctor." Before I could argue, he lifted me again, cradling me against his chest like I weighed nothing. My hands found his shoulders automatically, fingers curling into the expensive fabric of his shirt. I could feel his heart beating steady and strong beneath my palm, could smell the subtle scent of his cologne mixed with something uniquely him. He didn't take me to my room. Instead, Marcus carried me through the penthouse, past the guest room that had been mine for 3 years, down the hallway I'd never been invited to enter. His private wing. My breath caught as he shouldered open a door, revealing a bedroom that was all dark wood and masculine elegance, dominated by a massive bed that looked like it could sleep 4 people comfortably. "Marcus," I started, panic fluttering in my chest. "You're not sleeping alone tonight." He set me down on the edge of the bed with careful precision. "Not with an injury, not where I can't..." He stopped, jaw tightening. "Just don't argue with me. Not tonight." I stared at him, my mind racing. 3 years of separate rooms, separate lives, and now this? I don't understand what's happening. Marcus exhaled slowly, running a hand through his hair in a gesture that almost looked uncertain, except Marcus Valentino didn't do uncertain. He crouched in front of me, bringing us eye to eye, his hands resting on either side of my thighs, caging me in. I married you to save your family, he said, his voice low and rough. Your father's debt would have gotten him killed. Your mother, your sister, they would have been collateral damage. I couldn't. He paused, something dark crossing his face. I couldn't let that happen. But why? I whispered. Why would you care about some random family with debt? His jaw clenched. Because 15 years ago, my mother died because of debt my father couldn't pay. I was 14. I watched men drag her out of our apartment while my father begged. They said it was just insurance, just leverage. They brought her back 3 days later in a body bag. My heart cracked open. Marcus. I swore that day I'd never let it happen to another family if I had the power to stop it. His eyes met mine, and I saw the truth there. The boy who'd lost everything, who'd built an empire on blood and ruthlessness, to ensure he'd never be powerless again. When your father's debt came across my desk, I saw you. 21, working 2 jobs to help your family, so fucking brave and breakable. And I knew I couldn't let them touch you. So you married me. The pieces were falling into place, but they created a picture I didn't understand. But why keep your distance? Why 3 years of barely speaking to me? Marcus's hands curled into fists against the mattress. Because you were terrified of me. I saw it in your eyes at the wedding, the way you flinched when I kissed you, the way you trembled when I touched you. You thought I was a monster, and maybe I am, but I didn't want you to live in fear. His voice dropped. I thought if I gave you space, time, you'd eventually feel safe here. That maybe someday you'd look at me without that fear in your eyes. I'm not afraid of you, I said, the words tumbling out before I could think. His gaze snapped to mine, sharp and searching. You should be. Maybe. I swallowed hard, my heart hammering. But I'm not. I never was. Not really. I was afraid of the situation, of losing my family, of being trapped. But you? I shook my head. You've never hurt me. Never even raised your voice at me. You just disappeared. Something shifted in his expression. Surprise, hope, hunger, all tangled together in a way that made my stomach flip. You've been lonely. It wasn't a question, but I answered anyway. Yes. So have I. The confession seemed to cost him something. Every night, knowing you were sleeping down the hall, wanting to go to you, but thinking I was doing the right thing by staying away. His hand lifted, hovering near my face like he was afraid to touch. I've been a fool, Arya, the sound of my name on his lips. The first time he'd said it in 3 years broke something inside me. What changed? Tonight, I mean. Why now? Marcus's expression darkened. Because tonight I almost lost you, and I didn't even know it yet. Confusion furrowed my brow. What are you talking about? He stood, pacing to the window, his shoulders tight with tension. The conversation you overheard, the one that made you drop that vase. We have a problem. Someone's been asking questions about you, taking pictures, following you to the coffee shop you go to every Tuesday, the library where you volunteer on Thursdays. Ice slid down my spine. What? I've had men watching you since the day we married, Marcus said, his voice hard. Protection, always at a distance. But tonight, I found out someone's been tracking you for 3 weeks, and my men didn't notice until yesterday. He turned to face me, and the fury in his eyes was terrifying. Someone is targeting my wife, and that means someone is challenging me. The word wife hit differently this time, laden with possession and promise. Who? That's what I'm going to find out. He crossed back to me, cupping my face in both hands, tilting it up to his. But understand this, Arya. Everything changes now. No more separate rooms. No more distance. You're mine, and I protect what's mine. Anyone who tries to touch you will learn exactly how much of a monster I can be. My breath came in shallow gasps. This close, I could see the barely leashed violence in him, the predator who'd killed and conquered to build his empire. But beneath that, I saw something else. Genuine fear. Fear for me. I need to know you understand, Marcus continued, his voice dropping to that dangerous softness. From this moment forward, you don't leave this penthouse without my men. You don't go anywhere I haven't cleared, and you definitely don't sleep in that lonely room down the hall anymore. His thumb stroked across my cheekbones. I've tried to be noble, to give you the space you needed, but someone just declared war by threatening you, and I'm done pretending I don't want you in my bed, in my life, in every possible way. Marcus. I didn't know what to say, how to process the intensity of his words, the heat in his eyes. Tell me you understand, he demanded softly. Tell me you'll let me protect you. I understand. The words came out steadier than I felt. But I need something too. His eyes narrowed slightly. What? Honesty. I placed my hand over his heart, feeling it thunder beneath my palm. No more secrets. No more distance. If this is real, if we're really doing this, then I need to know you, not the monster everyone fears, but the man behind it. For a long moment, Marcus just stared at me. Then slowly he nodded. Honesty. I can do that. His lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile, though you might not like everything you learn. Try me. He studied my face like he was memorizing it, his hand still cradling my jaw. I've wanted you since the day I first saw you. When I walked into that apartment and saw you sitting there in your worn jeans and oversized sweater, trying so hard to be brave while your world fell apart, something in me just claimed you. It was instant and absolute, and it terrified me. My heart stuttered. Why would that terrify you? Because men like me don't get to want things. His voice was raw, stripped of the usual control. We take what we need and destroy what threatens us, but wanting, that's vulnerability. That's a weakness enemies can exploit. His forehead touched mine, and I could feel his breath against my lips. But I looked at you and wanted anyway. Wanted to protect you, possess you, keep you safe from everything, including myself. That's why you stayed away. I breathed, understanding finally clicking into place. You thought you were protecting me from your own feelings. I thought I was protecting you from becoming a target. His hands slid down to my shoulders, my arms, leaving trails of fire. I thought if we seemed like a business arrangement, if you appeared to be just another transaction, no one would see you as leverage. I was wrong. Someone saw through it, or they don't care, and now you're in danger because of me. So what happens now? Marcus pulled back slightly, his eyes searching mine. Now I stop pretending. Now I claim my wife properly, and I make sure every person in this city knows that touching you means death. His hand curved around the back of my neck, possessive and gentle. Now I keep you so close that nothing and no one can hurt you. The intensity in his voice, in his touch, made my pulse race. That sounds like a cage, a gilded cage, Karamia. But yes, he didn't lie, didn't try to soften it. I won't apologize for keeping you safe, even if it means locking you away from the world. I should have been angry, should have fought against the idea of being confined, controlled. But looking into Marcus's eyes, seeing the genuine fear there mixed with hunger and possession, I found I couldn't summon the outrage. Maybe because some broken part of me had always wanted to be wanted this desperately. Or maybe because 3 years of loneliness had left me starving for connection, even if it came wrapped in danger and obsession. Okay, I whispered. Marcus went very still. Okay? I'm not saying I'll be a perfect prisoner, I clarified, feeling braver than I had in years. And we're going to have to figure out how this works, how we work. But yes, okay, I'll stay close. I'll let you protect me. I met his gaze steadily, but you have to let me in too. No more walls between us. Something fierce and possessive flashed across his face. No more walls. He agreed. Then, with aching slowness, he leaned in and pressed his lips to mine. The kiss was nothing like our wedding kiss. That cold, perfunctory press of lips that had promised nothing. This was heat and hunger barely leashed. Marcus's mouth moving against mine with careful intensity, like he was holding himself back from devouring me whole. His hand tightened on my neck, angling my head, and when his tongue traced the seam of my lips, I opened for him without thinking. The kiss deepened, and I made a sound I didn't recognize. need and surrender all tangled together. Marcus groaned against my mouth, his free hand finding my waist, pulling me closer to the edge of the bed, pressing himself between my thighs. I could feel the evidence of his desire, could feel the way his whole body trembled with the effort of maintaining control. When he finally pulled back, we were both breathing hard. His pupils were blown wide, his lips slightly swollen, and the look in his eyes was pure predator. 3 years, he said roughly, his voice barely recognizable. 3 years I've wanted to do that, wanted to taste you, touch you, claim you properly. His hands flexed on my waist. You have no idea how hard it's been. Hearing you in the shower, smelling your shampoo in the hallway, knowing you were sleeping alone just down the hall. I was trembling, overwhelmed by sensation and emotion. Marcus, but not tonight. He pressed one more gentle kiss to my forehead, then stepped back with visible effort. Tonight you rest. Let your foot heal. And he exhaled shakily. I need to make some calls, find out who's been following you, and explain to them why that was a fatal mistake. The shift from passionate to deadly was jarring, a reminder of exactly who I'd married. But somehow, knowing he was channeling that violence toward protecting me made it less frightening and more thrilling. Marcus helped me under the covers, his movements surprisingly gentle. Sleep, Kara. I'll be in the study if you need me. Alessandro will be outside the door. He paused, something vulnerable crossing his face. And Arya? Tomorrow, everything changes. Tomorrow I start making up for 3 years of being an idiot. I watched him leave, the door clicking shut softly behind him, and stared at the ceiling of his bedroom. Our bedroom now, apparently. My foot throbbed dully, my lips still tingled from his kiss, and my mind spun with everything that had happened in the span of a few hours. Someone was following me. Marcus had wanted me all along. We just had our first real kiss. Everything had changed, just like he said. I touched my lips, remembering the heat of his mouth, the barely controlled hunger in his kiss. For 3 years, I'd existed in this penthouse like a ghost. But tonight, Marcus had made me feel solid, real, wanted. Tomorrow, he'd said, everything changes. I closed my eyes, Marcus's scent surrounding me from the pillows. And for the first time in 3 years, I fell asleep without crying. Sunlight pierced through the floor-to-ceiling windows, dragging me from sleep. For a disoriented moment, I didn't recognize my surroundings. The massive bed, the dark furniture, the scent of expensive cologne clinging to the sheets. Then, memory crashed back. The broken vase, the stitches, Marcus's confession, that devastating kiss. I sat up carefully, testing my injured foot. It throbbed, but the pain was manageable. The clock on the nightstand read 9:47 a.m., later than I'd slept in years. A note rested beside it, written in bold, angular handwriting. Stay in bed. Breakfast is coming. We need to talk. M. As if summoned by the note, a soft knock sounded at the door. Mrs. Valentino? A woman's voice, unfamiliar. Come in, I called, pulling the covers higher. The door opened to reveal a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and silver-streaked hair, carrying a tray laden with food. Behind her, Alessandro stood in the hallway, his expression unreadable. Good morning, ma'am. I'm Teresa, Mr. Valentino's housekeeper. She set the tray across my lap with practiced efficiency. He asked me to ensure you ate properly and stayed off that foot. I stared at the spread. Fresh fruit, perfectly scrambled eggs, toast, bacon, orange juice, coffee. This is too much. Teresa's smile was gentle. Mr. Valentino was very specific about your breakfast. He said you haven't been eating enough. Her eyes held understanding, maybe even sympathy. He's been worried about you for quite some time, though he'd never admit it. Heat crept up my neck. How long have you worked for him? 15 years. Since he was barely more than a boy trying to survive in a dangerous world. She adjusted the pillows behind me. I've never seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you. Like you're precious, breakable, worth protecting at any cost. The words settled over me like a warm blanket. He has a strange way of showing it. Men like Mr. Valentino don't know how to be soft, Teresa said quietly. They learn to survive, to fight, to kill. Love confuses them, makes them vulnerable. She patted my hand. Give him time to figure out how to be a husband instead of just a protector. After she left, I picked at the food, my mind churning. Everything had shifted so fundamentally in one night that I didn't know how to orient myself. The man I'd thought ignored my existence had apparently been watching me obsessively for 3 years. The marriage I'd believed was merely transactional apparently meant something to him. Something intense and possessive that both thrilled and terrified me. I was halfway through the eggs when the door opened again. Marcus filled the doorway, and my breath caught. He'd showered and changed into fresh clothes, dark slacks and a black shirt that emphasized his broad shoulders. His hair was still slightly damp, and there was a hardness to his expression that suggested he hadn't slept. "You're eating," he observed, closing the door behind him. Teresa made it impossible to refuse. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "Good. That's why I hired her." He crossed to the bed, sitting on the edge with careful distance between us. "How's your foot?" "Sore, but fine." I set down my fork, studying him. "Did you sleep at all?" "No." His jaw tightened. I had calls to make, information to extract. The casual way he said extract made my stomach flip. "Did you find out who's been following me?" Marcus's eyes went cold, the temperature in the room dropping several degrees. "Yes, and they've been dealt with." "Dealt with," I repeated slowly. "What does that mean?" He held my gaze, unflinching. "It means they won't be bothering you again. Ever." The implication was clear. Someone had died because of me. I should have been horrified, should have recoiled. Instead, I felt a disturbing sense of safety. Who were they? Hired surveillance, low-level operators from a rival family. Marcus's hands curled into fists on his thighs. "But here's what concerns me. They were specifically instructed to document your routines, your vulnerabilities. Someone was gathering intelligence for a move against you." Fear skittered down my spine. "Against me specifically? Why?" "Because you're my weakness." The words were simple, devastating. For 3 years, I kept you at a distance, thinking I was protecting you. But someone figured out the truth, that you matter to me, that hurting you would destroy me in ways no business loss or territorial fight ever could. I swallowed hard. "So what happens now?" Marcus shifted closer, his hand finding mine on the comforter. His fingers were warm, slightly calloused, and they intertwined with mine, like we'd done this 1,000 times before. "Now, we change strategy. Instead of keeping you in the shadows, I bring you into the light. By tonight, every person in this city will know that Aria Valentino is untouchable. That she's under my protection, my possession, and harming her means going to war with me. How are you going to do that?" His thumb stroked across my knuckles, the gesture almost absent, like he needed to touch me. "There's a gala tonight. Black tie, invitation only, attended by every major player in the city, legitimate and otherwise. I never bring dates to these events, never show weakness by appearing with someone who matters." His gray eyes met mine. "Tonight, I'm bringing my wife. And I'm making sure everyone understands exactly what you mean to me." My heart hammered. "Won't that make me more of a target?" "No." The word was absolute. "It will make you suicide to target. Right now, you're a mystery, a potential weakness to exploit. After tonight, you'll be a declared asset. Anyone who touches you will know they're starting a war they can't win." His hand tightened on mine. "I have the power to protect you, Aria. I just need to stop hiding you and start claiming you." The intensity in his voice, the possessive way he said claiming, sent heat pooling in my stomach. "Okay." Marcus's eyes darkened, just like that? No argument? "You think I should argue?" Most people would. He studied my face like he was trying to solve a puzzle. Most people would be demanding I take them far away from danger, not parade them in front of it. I thought about the last 3 years. The loneliness, the invisibility, the feeling of being a ghost in my own life. Then I thought about last night, Marcus's hands on my skin, his confession, that soul-searing kiss. "I'm tired of being invisible. If being visible means being yours, then I can live with that. Something fierce and possessive flashed across his face. He leaned in, his free hand cupping my jaw, and kissed me with barely restrained hunger. This kiss was different from last night's. Less controlled, more demanding. His tongue swept into my mouth, claiming, and I made a sound that was half gasp, half moan. When he pulled back, we were both breathing hard. "After tonight," he said roughly, "there's no going back. You'll be mine in every way that matters. In the eyes of my world, in reality, in this bed." His thumb traced my lower lip. "Are you sure this is what you want?" I should have been uncertain. Should have asked for time, for space to process. But looking into Marcus's storm-gray eyes, feeling the way he trembled with the effort of holding back, I found I'd never been more certain of anything. "I'm sure." Marcus exhaled shakily, then stood with visible effort. "Then we have a lot to do today. I've had a stylist scheduled to arrive this afternoon. You'll need a dress, hair, makeup, everything. I have dresses. Not like this one." His eyes raked over me with an intensity that made my skin prickle. "Tonight, you need to look like exactly what you are. A queen. My queen. Untouchable. Devastating. Mine." He moved toward the door, then paused. "And Arya, after tonight we share this room, this bed. No more separate lives." The promise in his voice made my stomach flip. "Okay." He left, and I sat there amid the breakfast tray, my lips still tingling from his kiss, my mind spinning with everything that was happening. 24 hours ago, I'd been invisible. Now, I was about to be paraded in front of the most dangerous people in the city as Marcus Valentino's most prized possession. The afternoon arrived in a blur of activity. The stylist Marcus hired was a severe woman named Isabel, who looked at me with critical eyes before nodding once, as if I'd passed some test. She brought 3 assistants and enough equipment to stock a salon. "Mr. Valentino was very specific about tonight," Isabel said, directing her team with sharp gestures. "Elegant, but powerful. Beautiful, but untouchable. You need to look like a woman who could bring a man to his knees with a glance." "That's a tall order," I muttered. Her smile was sharp. "Darling, have you looked in a mirror? The bones are already there. We just need to show the world what Mr. Valentino already sees." What followed was hours of pampering that felt more like preparation for battle. My hair was washed, trimmed, and styled into soft waves that cascaded down my back. My nails were shaped and painted a deep red that Isabel called blood and roses. Makeup was applied with artistic precision, subtle but striking, emphasizing my eyes and cheekbones in ways I'd never managed myself. Then came the dress. Isabel held it up with reverent hands. A floor-length gown in midnight blue silk that seemed to capture light and shadow in its folds. The neckline was elegant but revealing. The waist cinched, the skirt flowing like water. Diamond-studded heels accompanied it, along with jewelry that probably cost more than my family's house. "Mr. Valentino chose this himself," Isabel said, helping me into the dress. "He was very particular about the color. Said it matched your eyes when you're angry." The dress fit perfectly, hugging every curve I'd forgotten I had under my usual oversized clothes. When I finally looked in the full-length mirror, I barely recognized myself. The woman staring back was elegant, poised, powerful. Everything I'd never felt like before. "You look like you belong in his world now," Isabel said softly. "Like a queen." A knock at the door made us both turn. "Come in," I called. Marcus entered, and the moment his eyes landed on me, he froze. The expression that crossed his face was raw, unguarded. Hunger and possession and something that looked almost like reverence. "Leave us," he said without looking away from me, his voice rough. Isabel and her team disappeared quickly, the door clicking shut behind them. Marcus crossed the room slowly, circling me like a predator, his gaze cataloging every detail. "Do you have any idea," he said finally, stopping in front of me, "how beautiful you are, how every man at that gala is going to want you the moment you walk in?" My breath caught. "Marcus, but they can't have you." His hand found my waist, pulling me flush against him. "Because you're mine. Every gorgeous inch of you belongs to me." And after tonight, everyone will know it. He leaned down, his lips brushing the shell of my ear. I'm going to make you shine, cara mia. And then I'm going to make sure the world knows that touching you means death. The possessive promise in his voice made me shiver. You sound very sure of yourself. I am. He pulled back enough to meet my eyes, and the intensity there stole my breath. I've spent 3 years holding back, being cautious, protecting you from afar. Starting tonight, that ends. Starting tonight, you're not just my wife in name. You're my partner, my obsession, my greatest weakness made into my greatest strength. That's a lot of pressure, I whispered. Marcus's smile was dangerous. You can handle it. You've survived 3 years married to a monster. Tonight, you just have to stand beside him and look exactly like this, untouchable and mine. He stepped back, adjusting his cufflinks with practiced ease. He was devastating in his tuxedo, every inch the dangerous kingpin who commanded fear and respect in equal measure. The car is waiting. Are you ready? I took a shaky breath, looking at myself one more time in the mirror. The woman staring back looked ready for anything. Elegant, powerful. Marcus Valentino's equal. I'm ready. Marcus offered his arm, and I took it, feeling the solid strength of him beneath my fingers. As we walked toward the elevator, Alessandro and 2 other guards falling into formation around us, I realized that everything truly was changing. The invisible girl who'd haunted this penthouse was gone. In her place was a woman about to walk into the lion's den on the arm of the most dangerous man in the city. And somehow I wasn't afraid. The gala was held at the Palazzo, an exclusive venue that dripped old money and older secrets. Our motorcade, 3 black SUVs with bulletproof glass and armed men, pulled up to the red carpet entrance where photographers clustered like sharks scenting blood. Camera flashes exploded the moment our door opened. Marcus exited first, buttoning his tuxedo jacket with the casual confidence of a man who owned the world. Then he turned, extending his hand to me, and every camera swiveled in our direction. My heart hammered as I took his hand and stepped out. The midnight blue dress caught the light, the silk shimmering like water, and I heard the immediate buzz of speculation ripple through the crowd. Marcus Valentino never brought dates to these events. Marcus Valentino didn't have a personal life. And yet, here I was, my hand in his arm sliding possessively around my waist. Smile, he murmured against my ear, his breath warm. Let them see you're not afraid. I lifted my chin and smiled, letting the cameras capture this moment. The first time most of the city's elite were seeing Marcus Valentino's mysterious wife. His hand tightened on my waist, a gesture that looked affectionate but felt like a brand, a claim. We walked the red carpet slowly, Marcus nodding to various people but never stopping, never releasing me. I could feel eyes on us from every direction, curious, envious, calculating. By tomorrow, my face would be in every society column, every gossip blog. The invisible wife made visible. Inside, the palazzo was breathtaking. Crystal chandeliers cast rainbow prisms across marble floors. A string quartet played in one corner, while servers circulated with champagne and hors d'oeuvres. The room was filled with the city's power players, politicians, business moguls, and the criminal elite who operated in the shadows. They all mingled together in a dance as old as civilization itself, power recognizing power regardless of legality. Stay close, Marcus said quietly, his hand never leaving the small of my back. Don't accept drinks from anyone but our servers. Don't go anywhere without Alessandro. And if anyone makes you uncomfortable, you tell me immediately. The protectiveness in his voice made something warm bloom in my chest. I will. We'd barely taken 3 steps into the room when people began approaching. Marcus introduced me to a blur of faces. Mayors and CEOs, judges and crime lords, all treating him with the same careful respect. And with each introduction, he made the same point clear. This is my wife, Aria. The emphasis on wife was unmistakable, a verbal claiming that matched the possessive way he kept me tucked against his side. Marcus, you've been hiding this beauty from us for years, purred a woman in a scarlet dress, her eyes sharp with calculation. Victoria Russo, if I remembered correctly, head of a rival family. beautiful and deadly in equal measure. I didn't even know you were married. I value my privacy, Victoria. Marcus replied smoothly, his hand flexing possessively on my hip. But circumstances change. Victoria's gaze slid to me, assessing. How fascinating. And what made you decide to share her with the world now? I didn't. The words were soft, but edged with steel. I decided to make it clear that she's under my protection. Permanently. Irrevocably. His gray eyes met Victoria's with undisguised warning. Anyone who forgets that fact will learn why that's a mistake they can only make once. The threat hung in the air between them. Victoria's smile didn't waver, but something flickered in her eyes. Acknowledgement. Maybe even a hint of fear. How romantic. Congratulations on finally claiming your bride properly. She drifted away, but I could feel her watching us. She's dangerous, I murmured. Very, Marcus agreed. But now she knows you're off limits. That was the point. He guided me toward a quieter corner, where Alessandro materialized with 2 glasses of champagne from a server Marcus had clearly pre-approved. Every person in this room is dangerous, Kara. That's why I need them to understand that touching you means war. I sipped the champagne, letting the bubbles settle my nerves. Is it always like this? Everyone watching, calculating? Always. His thumb traced circles on my hip, a gesture that was becoming familiar, comforting. My world is a chess game where the stakes are life and death. Every move matters. Every piece has value. He turned me to face him, his free hand coming up to cup my jaw. And you, Arya, are my queen. The most valuable piece on the board. Lose you, and I lose everything. The intensity of his words, his gaze, made my breath catch. Around us, people were watching this display of affection with varying degrees of shock. Marcus Valentino didn't do public displays. He didn't touch, didn't show weakness. But here he was, holding me like I was precious, looking at me like I was his entire world. You're making a statement, I realized. I'm making a promise. He leaned down, his forehead touching mine, and the ballroom seemed to fade away. Anyone who hurts you dies. Anyone who threatens you dies. Anyone who even looks at you wrong will wish they'd died. His voice dropped to that dangerous softness. I'm done being subtle about what you mean to me. Before I could respond, a commotion near the entrance drew our attention. A man was striding through the crowd with the kind of confidence that came from either stupidity or power, in this case, probably both. He was handsome in a cold way, blonde and blue-eyed, wearing his tuxedo like armor. Men stepped aside for him, and I saw Marcus's entire body go rigid. Who is that? I whispered. Dante Carrington. Marcus's voice was ice, head of the Carrington family, Victoria's cousin and my biggest rival for control of the Eastern Territories. His arm around me tightened to the point of pain. And the man who likely ordered the surveillance on you. Fear spiked through me. Are you sure? Not yet, but I will be. Marcus's jaw clenched. And when I have proof, I'll burn his entire organization to the ground. Dante's gaze found us across the room, and his smile was sharp as a knife. He changed direction, heading straight for us, and I felt Alessandro shift closer on my other side, his hand disappearing into his jacket, going for his weapon. Valentino, Dante said as he approached, his voice carrying that particular inflection of false friendliness. What a surprise to see you here with company. I thought you preferred to keep your personal life private. Things change, Carrington. Marcus's voice could have frozen fire. Arya, this is Dante Carrington. Dante, my wife. Dante's blue eyes raked over me with an assessment that made my skin crawl. Enchanted. I had no idea Marcus had such exquisite taste in women. He extended his hand toward me. May I? I started to reach for it automatically, but Marcus's hand caught my wrist, stopping me. The gesture was possessive, territorial, and absolutely deliberate. My wife doesn't shake hands with men who might lose them. The threat was explicit. Dante's smile sharpened, his hand dropping. How protective. One might almost think you're worried about her safety. His gaze flicked between us, calculating. Though I can't imagine who would be foolish enough to threaten someone under your protection. Can't you? Marcus stepped forward slightly, positioning himself partially between Dante and me. Because I can think of several people stupid enough to try, but they won't make that mistake twice. The testosterone in the air was suffocating. People around us had gone quiet, watching this confrontation with the avid interest of those who sensed blood in the water. This was more than just two rivals posturing. This was a challenge, a line being drawn. Dante's expression never wavered. Well, I'd hate for anything unfortunate to happen to such a lovely woman. The city can be so dangerous, especially for those who find themselves in the wrong place at the wrong time. His gaze met mine. You should be careful, Mrs. Valentino. Sometimes protection isn't enough. My spine stiffened. Is that a threat? A friendly warning. Dante's smile was cold, from one concerned citizen to another. Marcus moved so fast I barely registered it. One moment he was standing beside me, the next he had Dante by the throat, slamming him back against a nearby pillar. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Alessandro and the other guards formed a wall around us, hands on weapons, ready for war. Let me make something very clear, Marcus said softly, his voice carrying despite its quietness. You don't talk to my wife. You don't look at my wife. You don't think about my wife. Because if anything, and I mean anything, happens to her, I will make you watch while I dismantle everything you love before I finally let you die. Do we understand each other? Dante's face was reddening, but his eyes showed no fear, only calculation and cold fury. Perfectly. Marcus released him with a shove, stepping back to me and pulling me against his side. Good. Now get out of my sight before I forget we're in public. Dante straightened his jacket with deliberate calm, his gaze promising retribution. Enjoy your evening, Valentino, both of you. He walked away, but the menace in his words lingered like smoke. The moment he was gone, the room exhaled. Conversation resumed, but everyone was watching us now with new understanding. Marcus Valentino had just claimed his wife in the most public, violent way possible. There could be no doubt now about what I meant to him, or what he'd do to protect me. We're leaving, Marcus said quietly, his hand finding mine. Now. He didn't give me time to argue, just guided me toward the exit with Alessandro and the guards forming a protective circle. People parted for us like water, and I caught glimpses of their faces. Shock, fear, fascination. By tomorrow, tonight's confrontation would be legend. The drive back to the penthouse was silent and tense. Marcus's jaw was clenched tight, his hand gripping mine with bruising force, like he was afraid I'd disappear if he let go. When we finally entered the penthouse, he dismissed the guards with a curt nod, then turned to me with eyes that burned. I shouldn't have lost control like that, he said, his voice rough. I shouldn't have. You were protecting me. I stepped closer, my hands finding his chest. You made it clear that I'm under your protection. Isn't that what tonight was supposed to be about? Not like that. He caught my hands, holding them against his heart. I wanted to kill him, Arya. The way he looked at you, the way he threatened you, I wanted to rip his throat out right there in front of everyone. The confession should have frightened me. Instead, it sent heat pooling low in my stomach. But you didn't. Because of you. His hands came up to frame my face, tilting it up to his. Because touching you, holding you, keeping you safe, that matters more than vengeance, more than pride, more than anything. His thumb stroked my cheekbones. You've made me weak, cara mia, and somehow, I don't care. I rose on my toes, my lips finding his. The kiss was hungry, desperate. 3 years of denial finally breaking. Marcus groaned against my mouth, his hands sliding down to my waist, pulling me flush against him. I could feel every hard plane of his body, feel the way he trembled with barely restrained need. Arya, he breathed against my lips. If we do this, if we cross this line, there's no going back. You'll be mine completely, in every way. I'm already yours, I whispered. I have been since you carried me to your bed last night, maybe longer. Something fierce and possessive flashed in his eyes. He swept me up into his arms, cradling me against his chest, and carried me through the penthouse to his bedroom. Our bedroom. The city lights painted shadows across the massive bed as he laid me down with surprising gentleness. 3 years, he said, his hands finding the zipper of my dress. 3 years I've wanted you, dreamed about you, imagined this moment. The zipper slid down with agonizing slowness, his fingers trailing fire along my spine. I'm going to take my time, Kara. I'm going to worship every inch of you. And by the time I'm done, you'll never doubt who you belong to. The dress pooled around my waist, and Marcus's sharp intake of breath made me shiver. His hands mapped my exposed skin with reverent touches, like I was something precious and breakable. When his lips followed the path his hands had traced, I gasped, arching into him. Marcus, I breathed, my hands finding his hair, holding him to me. He looked up at me, his eyes molten silver in the darkness. Say it. Say you're mine. I'm yours, I whispered without hesitation. Only yours. The words seemed to break something in him. His control shattered, and suddenly his mouth was on mine again, hot and demanding, while his hands made quick work of the rest of our clothes. When skin finally met skin, we both made sounds that were more animal than human. Need and hunger, and 3 years of desperate wanting. Marcus moved over me, positioning himself between my thighs, and paused. His forehead pressed to mine, his body trembling with the effort of holding back. Last chance to change your mind. I wrapped my legs around his waist, pulling him closer. I'm not changing my mind. I want this. I want you. He entered me slowly, carefully, his eyes never leaving mine. The sensation was overwhelming. Pleasure edged with pain, fullness, connection, completion. When he was fully seated inside me, he stilled, giving me time to adjust, his whole body shaking. Arya, he breathed, my name a prayer and a curse. You feel... God, you feel perfect. Then he began to move, and coherent thought became impossible. There was only sensation, only Marcus above me, around me, inside me. His hands mapped my body like he was memorizing every curve, every response. His mouth left marks on my throat, my collarbone, branding me as his. And when his hand slipped between us, finding that bundle of nerves that made me cry out, he smiled against my skin with dark satisfaction. That's it, he murmured, his voice rough with desire. Let me hear you. Let me know I'm the only one who makes you feel like this. The pleasure built and built, spiraling higher until I thought I might shatter. Marcus's rhythm became more urgent, his control fraying, and when he commanded, "Come for me, Kara," I obeyed, falling apart in his arms with a cry that might have been his name. He followed moments later, my name on his lips, his body shuddering against mine as he found his own release. Then he collapsed beside me, pulling me into his arms, holding me like I might disappear. For long moments, we just breathed together, hearts racing, skin slick with sweat. Marcus's hand stroked through my hair with surprising tenderness, and when I looked up at him, the expression on his face stole my breath. Mine, he said softly, fiercely. You're mine now, Arya. Completely, irrevocably mine. I pressed a kiss to his chest, right over his heart. And you're mine. His arms tightened around me, always have been, Cara Mia, even when I was too stupid to admit it. We lay there in the darkness, wrapped around each other, and for the first time since our courthouse wedding 3 years ago, I felt like I was exactly where I belonged. Block 5. I woke to unfamiliar warmth, Marcus's body wrapped around mine, his arm heavy across my waist, his breath stirring my hair. Morning light filtered through the windows, painting everything gold, and for a moment I just existed in that perfect stillness, memorizing the weight of him, the rhythm of his breathing, the way his hand splayed possessively across my stomach even in sleep. Then his phone shattered the peace. Marcus came awake instantly, the warrior replacing the lover in a heartbeat. He grabbed the phone from the nightstand, his voice sharp. What? I couldn't hear the response, but I watched his expression darken, his jaw clenching. When? A pause. How many? Another pause, longer this time. Handle it. I'll be there in an hour. He ended the call and turned to me, his hand cupping my face with surprising gentleness. I have to go. There's been a situation at one of the warehouses. Fear spiked through me. What kind of situation? The kind that requires my immediate attention. He pressed a kiss to my forehead. Alessandro will stay with you. Don't leave the penthouse for any reason. I mean it, Arya. Marcus, promise me. His eyes were intense, worried. After last night, after what happened with Carrington, I need to know you're safe while I handle this. I swallowed my protest. I promise. He dressed quickly, efficiently, transforming from the passionate lover to the dangerous crime lord. Before leaving, he kissed me one more time, deep, possessive, promising. I'll be back soon. And Arya? Last night changed everything, for both of us. Then he was gone, and I was alone in the massive bed, my body still aching pleasantly from his touch, my heart full of emotions I couldn't quite name. The morning crawled by. Teresa brought breakfast, her eyes twinkling with knowing warmth when she saw which bedroom I'd emerged from. Alessandro stationed himself outside the door, polite but immovable. I tried reading, tried watching television, but my mind kept circling back to Marcus, where he was, what danger he was facing, when he'd return. It was nearly noon when my phone rang, an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, remembering Marcus's warnings, but something made me pick up. Hello? Mrs. Valentino. The voice was cultured, male, and sent ice down my spine. Or may I call you Arya? We haven't been properly introduced, though I feel like I know you quite well. My hand tightened on the phone. Who is this? Dante Carrington. I apologize for the informality of this call, but circumstances require directness. He paused, and I could hear the smile in his voice. Your husband is currently at the warehouse on 5th and Morrison, dealing with a little problem I arranged. A distraction, you might say. Terror gripped my throat. What do you want? To talk. Face to face. There are things you should know about your devoted husband. Things that might change your perspective on your marriage. His voice was smooth, persuasive. Meet me at the Meridian Hotel, penthouse suite. Come alone, or I'll ensure that warehouse fire spreads to buildings with far more innocent casualties. Fire? My voice cracked. You said a fire? A small one. Controllable for now, but these things can get out of hand so quickly. The threat was velvet-wrapped steel. You have 30 minutes, Arya. Don't disappoint me. And don't tell anyone. Not Alessandro. Not your husband's men. This is between you and me. The line went dead. My hands shook as I stared at the phone. This was a trap. It had to be. But if Dante had really set that fire, if he was threatening innocent lives, I thought of Marcus's face when he'd talked about his mother, about the helplessness he'd felt as a boy. I couldn't let people die because of me. I grabbed a coat and my purse, my mind racing. Alessandro was in the hallway, but there was a service elevator at the other end of the floor, one I'd discovered during sleepless nights of exploring. If I was quick, if I was quiet. 10 minutes later, I was in a cab, heading toward the Meridian Hotel. My phone clutched in my hand. I should call Marcus, should tell Alessandro, but Dante's threat echoed in my mind. People would die if I didn't go alone. The Meridian was sleek and modern, all glass and chrome. I gave Dante's name at the desk, and the concierge directed me to a private elevator that required a key card. My heart hammered as I rode up, watching the numbers climb, wondering if I was making the biggest mistake of my life. The elevator opened directly into the penthouse suite. Dante stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, backlit by the city skyline, looking like he'd stepped out of a magazine. He turned when I entered, his smile sharp. Arya, thank you for coming. He gestured to a chair. Please sit. Would you like a drink? I want you to call off whatever you're doing at that warehouse. My voice was steadier than I felt. And then I want you to tell me what this is really about. Dante's smile widened. Direct. I like that. Marcus chose well. He moved to a bar cart, pouring amber liquid into 2 glasses. The warehouse is fine. The fire was contained 20 minutes ago. I needed to ensure you'd come without your husband's knowledge. Relief and fury warred in my chest. You manipulated me. I motivated you. He brought me a glass, which I didn't take. There's a difference. And before you get too angry, know that I'm about to give you information that Marcus should have shared years ago. I'm not interested in your games. Not even if they concern your father. That stopped me cold. Dante's eyes gleamed with satisfaction. I thought that might get your attention. Sit, Arya. This story requires context. Against my better judgment, I sat. Dante settled into the chair across from me, swirling his drink. 3 years ago, your father owed money to some very bad people. But did Marcus ever tell you why? He paused. Your father didn't gamble, didn't live beyond his means. The debt came from medical bills. Your mother's cancer treatment. Experimental procedures that insurance wouldn't cover. My stomach dropped. How do you know that? Because I made it my business to know everything about Marcus's wife. Dante leaned forward. Here's what's interesting. Those experimental treatments? They worked. Your mother's cancer went into remission. But the debt collectors didn't care about success stories. They wanted their money, with interest that would have enslaved your family for generations. Marcus paid the debt, I said quietly. That's why he married me. Partially. Dante's smile was cold. But here's what Marcus didn't tell you. I was the one who originally held your father's debt. Not some nameless criminals, me. I bought it specifically to use as leverage against Marcus. The room tilted. What? Marcus and I have been at war for years over the Eastern Territories. Your family was supposed to be my leverage. Threaten them, force Marcus to back down, or watch innocents suffer. Dante shrugged. But Marcus found out before I could make my move. He came to me with an offer. He'd cede a portion of the Eastern Territories if I transferred your father's debt to him and stayed away from your family. I couldn't breathe. You're lying. Am I? Dante pulled out his phone, scrolling through documents. Here's the contract, signed by both of us. Marcus gave up territory worth hundreds of millions to protect your family. And then, to ensure I couldn't touch you again, he married you himself. He looked up at me. Tell me, Arya, does that sound like a man who married you out of obligation or obsession? My mind reeled. Marcus had sacrificed part of his empire for me, for my family, before I'd even known his name. The marriage hadn't just been about paying a debt. It had been about removing me from Dante's reach entirely. Why are you telling me this? I whispered. Because Marcus winning you was never part of my plan. Dante's expression hardened. I wanted leverage. Instead, I gave him the one thing that makes him vulnerable, you. And last night, watching him nearly kill me in front of everyone for daring to threaten you, I realized something. The only way to truly hurt Marcus Valentino is through his wife. Cold dread washed over me. If you think I'm going to help you. I don't need your help. Dante stood, moving to the windows. I just needed to get you here, away from his protection, to prove a point. The sound of footsteps made me spin. Men emerged from the other rooms. 5 of them, armed, faces hard. My heart seized as I realized the trap I'd walked into. You see? Dante continued conversationally. Marcus's love for you is his weakness, and I'm going to use it to destroy him. He glanced at his watch. Right about now, he's discovering you're gone. In approximately 10 minutes, he'll receive a video showing you here, in my custody. And then he'll come for you, exactly as I've planned. Terror and fury warred in my chest. You're using me as bait, essentially. Dante's smile was cold. Marcus will come alone because I'll threaten to hurt you if he brings his army. He'll be vulnerable, emotional, desperate, and when he walks through that door, my men will be waiting. I'll take everything from him, his empire, his life, and the satisfaction of knowing he died trying to save you. He'll kill you first, I said with more confidence than I felt. Perhaps. But you'll be dead too, which means he loses either way. Dante moved closer, and I fought the urge to recoil. I'm going to enjoy watching his face when he realizes he can't save you this time. The elevator dinged. Everyone froze. Dante's expression shifted from confident to confused. That's not possible. We have at least... The elevator doors opened, and Marcus stepped out. But he wasn't alone. Alessandro emerged behind him, followed by 20 armed men who fanned out with military precision. And Marcus. Marcus looked like death personified. His suit was torn, smudged with soot from the warehouse fire. His knuckles were bloody, and his eyes were cold, empty, promising annihilation. You miscalculated, Carrington, Marcus said, his voice soft and deadly. You assumed I wouldn't know my wife left the penthouse. You assumed I wouldn't have trackers in everything she owns. He held up his phone, showing a map with a blinking red dot. My location. You assumed I'd be stupid enough to come alone. Dante's men reached for their weapons, but they were outgunned and outmaneuvered. Alessandro's team had weapons trained on them before they could even draw. The standoff was over before it began. Marcus's gaze found mine across the room, and something in his expression cracked. Arya, are you hurt? I shook my head, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. His attention snapped back to Dante with lethal focus. You touched my wife. You threatened her. You used her as bait. He moved forward, each step measured, terrifying. I told you what would happen if anyone hurt her. Did you think I was bluffing? Marcus, Dante started, but Marcus's fist connected with his jaw, sending him sprawling. Don't say her name. Marcus hauled Dante up by his collar, his voice dropping to that dangerous softness. Don't think it. Don't breathe in her direction, because I'm going to make an example of you that will echo through this city for decades. You can't kill me here, Dante gasped. Too many witnesses. Too public. Marcus's smile was terrible. Who said anything about killing you? He shoved Dante toward Alessandro. Take him to the facility. I want every piece of his organization dismantled by sunrise, his assets, his territory, his people, all of it. Leave him with nothing but the clothes on his back and the memory of what he lost. Boss. Alessandro hesitated. And make sure he understands that if he ever comes near my wife again, if he ever speaks her name again, if he ever so much as thinks about her, then I'll revisit the question of killing him. Slowly. Creatively. Marcus's gaze was ice. Get him out of my sight. Alessandro and the men dragged Dante toward the stairs, avoiding the elevator we'd need. Dante's protests faded as they disappeared, leaving Marcus and me alone in the penthouse suite. For a long moment, neither of us moved. Then Marcus crossed to me in 3 long strides, pulling me into his arms with bruising force. His whole body trembled as he buried his face in my hair. When I realized you were gone, he said, his voice breaking. When I saw that empty bedroom, I thought, Christ, Arya, I thought I'd lost you. I'm sorry. Tears streamed down my face. He said there was a fire, that people would die if I didn't come alone. I know. Marcus pulled back enough to cup my face, his thumbs wiping away my tears. Dante told me everything he said to you. And I should have told you the truth about your father's debt, about what I gave up to protect you. He closed his eyes. I didn't want you to feel obligated. Didn't want you to think I expected gratitude or repayment. You gave up part of your territory for me, I whispered, before you even knew me. I saw your picture in the debt file. His eyes opened, and they were raw, vulnerable. Just one photo, and I knew I'd do anything to keep you safe. It wasn't rational. It wasn't smart. But it was absolute. His forehead touched mine. I've been yours from that moment, Arya. Long before you were mine. The confession broke something in me. I kissed him with everything I had. Love, gratitude, forgiveness, promise. He responded desperately, his hands tangling in my hair, holding me like I might disappear. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Marcus rested his forehead against mine. We're going home. And then we're going to talk about you, ever leaving my sight again. I thought I was protecting you, I protested weakly. I'm supposed to protect you. His voice was fierce. That's my job, my purpose, my entire reason for existing. You don't get to sacrifice yourself for me, Kara. That's not how this works. Then how does it work? Marcus's expression softened. We protect each other. We trust each other. And we never, ever face danger alone again. He pressed a kiss to my forehead. Can you live with that? I thought about the last 3 years of loneliness, about last night's passion, about this morning's terror, and this moment's relief. Yes, I can live with that. Good. He lifted me into his arms, carrying me toward the elevator. Because you're stuck with me now, Mrs. Valentino. For better or worse, in danger and in safety for the rest of our lives. I can think of worse fates. I murmured against his chest. His arms tightened. So can I. Cara mia. So can I. 3 months later, I stood in the penthouse kitchen making tea, watching the rain streak down the windows. But this time, the silence didn't feel suffocating. This time, I knew Marcus would be home soon. Knew I'd fall asleep in his arms, knew I'd wake to his kisses. The debt that had brought us together was long paid. Dante Carrington had fled the city, his empire in ruins, his name a cautionary tale. My family was safe, thriving even. My mother's cancer still in remission, my sister in college, my father working an honest job that Marcus had quietly arranged. And Marcus and I, we were learning each other day by day. Learning how to be partners instead of strangers. Learning that love built on protection and obsession could grow into something deeper, more real. The elevator dinged, and I smiled, setting down my tea. Marcus appeared in the doorway, and the look on his face when he saw me, like I was his entire world, his greatest treasure, his home, never got old. "Hey," I said softly. "Hey yourself." He crossed to me, pulling me into his arms, kissing me with the casual intimacy of someone who had the right. "How was your day?" "Quiet, boring, perfect." I leaned into him, breathing in his scent. "How was yours?" "Better now." His hand found my waist, thumb stroking in that possessive way that made me shiver. "I have a surprise for you." "Oh?" He pulled an envelope from his jacket, handing it to me. Inside were 2 plane tickets to Italy. 2 weeks. No business, no danger, no interruptions. Just you and me, finally taking the honeymoon we never had. Tears pricked my eyes. "Marcus, I want to show you where my mother was from. Want to walk the streets she loved, eat at the restaurants she talked about." His expression was vulnerable, open. "Want to build memories with you that have nothing to do with debts or danger or the life we've lived here." I kissed him, pouring everything I felt into it. Love, gratitude, joy. "When do we leave?" "Friday." His smile was real, unguarded. "Think you can be ready by then?" "I've been ready for 3 years," I murmured against his lips. I just didn't know it yet. Marcus's arms tightened around me, and we stood there in the kitchen, rain falling outside, the city lights beginning to glow as dusk approached. We'd started in darkness, a marriage born from debt and desperation. But somehow impossibly we'd found light. "I love you," I whispered, the first time I'd said the words aloud. Marcus went still, then pulled back to look at me, his eyes blazing. "Say it again." "I love you, Marcus Valentino." Obsessive, possessive, protective mine. His kiss was fierce, claiming, promising forever. When he finally pulled back, his voice was rough with emotion. "I love you too, Arya. More than territory, more than power, more than my own life. You're everything." And in that moment, with the rain falling and the city glowing and Marcus's arms around me, I knew we'd be okay. The debt was paid, the danger was past, and what remained was just us, 2 broken people who'd found healing in each other, who'd built love from the ashes of obligation. It wasn't the fairy tale I'd dreamed of as a girl. It was better, real, hard-won, ours. After 3 years of marriage, Marcus Valentino had finally touched me. And everything had changed. Everything except the one truth that mattered most. We belonged to each other, now and always.